Hey there y'all, it's Renee here. Wanted to come in and show you what we're going to be working on today. I'm going to make this little pleated clutch with the little D-ring on it, and I'm going to show you step by step how to do it, so stay tuned. For the pattern pieces for this little clutch, I'm going to show you what I cut out here, and I'll give you all the measurements. You're going to need a piece for the inside lining, which I did mine at 10 inches across by 7 3/4 down, and that'll be the one piece for the lining. It's not cut on the fold or anything like that. It's just this one whole piece. Okay, for the outside of the clutch, the part that's going to be pleated, that'll be the bottom part. I did a piece that is 7 inches wide, which is going to be cut on the fold, so it's going to be 14 inches before we put the pleat in. And then it is 6 1/4 inches high, and like I said, that'll be cut on the fold. And then the top band for the outside of the bag, I did it 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, so it's 5 inches across, and when it's open up it should be 10 inches, which would match that inside lining once you get everything cut and open and start to put the bag together. And the 3 1/4 inches high, and so like I said, that's going to be cut on the fold. And what you're going to do is, with this pattern piece, we're going to cut out 2 pieces for the lining and 4 pieces, which will be 2 pieces to put on the outside part of the bag, to, you know, interfacing for the outside of the bag and interfacing for the inside of the bag. So that's what you need for the lining piece, the pattern piece. That's what you cut out. For the bottom band, the part that we're going to pleat, you're going to need to cut 2 pieces on the fold. As you can see, both of these pieces that I've got here are on the fold. For this band piece, you're going to cut 2 pieces of fabric on the fold. I've already opened mine up and pressed them. So, and 2 pieces of lining, or interfacing, I'm sorry, interfacing on the fold, so that you have those for the top band piece. And then what I did was, I didn't really make a pattern piece for this, but I cut out a little scrap to make the little D-ring holder, and what I'm going to do is just iron that and press it, and then I'll fold it to make a loop to hold the D-ring. So it's not really any particular size. I think I probably did it 3 by 5, but it'll come down much smaller than that. I may even have to trim it. It just depends on what size D-ring you're using, and you know how much you want it to hang out. I'm actually probably going to cut a lot of this off at the width, because once I fold it over, I want that D-ring to be really close to the bag, so like maybe less than 1/2 inch from the D-ring to the loop. So anyway, we'll see how that turns out. So the first thing I'm going to do is, for the top band, for the outside of the bag and the lining, I'm going to go ahead and press the interfacing on. I'm not going to do that with the bottom part of the outside of the bag yet, because I want to create the pleat first, and then I'll press the interfacing onto it, because I've cut the interfacing down to the size of the lining of the bag. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. I've got my interfacing ironed onto the pieces that I need it ironed onto, and I wanted to show you how I'm going to do the little strap or the little loop for the D-ring. And you're going to need a D-ring and a zipper for this project. I did not show those at the beginning, but I'm going to use a 1-inch D-ring, and what I'm doing to fold this over is I'm folding it over about 1 inch, pressing it, and then folding over about another inch. And I don't want that raw edge too close to the edge of this, because I don't want it to show, so I'm not folding it all the way over to the edge. Then this one's going to be just about to the edge what I'll do is when I get to that step, I'll take it to the machine and I'll sew down both sides to give it a neat look, and then we'll create the loop, which will be a lot less than this. I'll probably end up cutting about half of it off, and I'll make the loop for the D-ring. Our next step is going to be to create these pleats, and you see here I've got the two outside pieces of the bag that are folded over. I've got a piece of chalk, a ruler, and some pins. Here's what we're going to do. Now, I've already got this piece, and this one is down to the 10 inches that it should be for the outer part of the bag. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. And the first thing you want to do is measure in from the sides 3 inches, and you're going to make a mark. And then from that mark, you're going to measure 1.5 inches. And then from that mark, you're also going to measure 1.5 inches. So all told, on each side, you're going to have 3 marks. And we're going to do the same thing with this side. Alright, so I'm going in 3 inches. And then 1.5 inches. And then another 1.5 inches. And then what I want to do is, with this first mark that I made on this side, I'm going to pinch it up and touch it to that middle mark that I made there. And I'm going to press it down, and then we're going to take this, let me make sure. It's hard for me to see that little mark I made there because it's on the white piece. Then I'm going to take that mark and fold it over to that middle mark again, almost touching the first one that I folded over, and we're going to press that. And then I want to go ahead and pin these. I want to pin them down using 4 pins. I'm going to pin the center where they're touching the fold over, where they're touching that center mark. And then we want to make sure that these back pieces that are folded are pinned down also, because when we go to tack this on with the sewing machine, that can get bunched up, and it won't look, it will not look good if it's, you know, not sewn down flat. So now I've got that pinned, so I'm going to do this side now, and I'm going to find that first mark, touch it to the middle mark, press it down. I want to make sure that we press it even, because we don't want the bag to be flaring out. And then we're going to find this other mark, and touch it to that center mark. And then we're going to put our pins in place. See, we're just making sure that all of those pleats are pinned down. All those folds, I mean, sorry. And that way when we take it to the machine, it'll come together as it should. And you can see we've got about 10 inches. It's a little over, it's less than 1/4 inch, but that'll work out in the final product. So now what we need to do is take this to the machine, and I'm going to do a top stitch right along the edge just to hold these pleats in place. So I've got my pieces for the outer part of the bag, And I'm going to start right along the edge where I've got this first pin for that back fold. And just maybe 1/4 of an inch along the edge, I'm just going to stitch a little stitch to keep those pleats in place. I can take the pins out, and I can take the pieces of interfacing for the outer part of the bag and press those on. So I realized, and I did not realize it until I was fixing to iron these on, that I had cut these to the size of the outer part of the bag, or the lining of the bag, yeah. So really all I need to do is just lay this on it and just trim it right here. So before you do that step, you need to do that. It's probably best to just, when you get the pleats and everything in this part of the bag, to just lay it on the interfacing before you cut it out and trace it, and then cut your pieces of interfacing so you've got a good match. So I've got my interfacing pressed onto the outer parts of the bag. You see me holding my remote there. Now what I want to do is take them over to the machine, and with right sides facing together, and if you have a pattern like this that kind of has, you know, up down, these skulls are all kind of going vertically the same way, you want to make sure that you lay those so that when they're flipped up, they're up as they should be. So I'm going to do that off camera. I'm just going to tack these or sew these to the top of the outer part of the bag, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. So now you see I have the top band sewn to the bottom band of the bag. I want to take these seams and I want them to be facing up. Just, that's my preference. If you want to face them down, you can do that too. But I want to press these, and I've got my seam facing up. And what I'm going to do is go over to the machine and just tack right along the edge where they're sewn together, just to keep them in place. So I'm going to do that off camera also, and then I'll be back to show you attaching the zipper and putting all the pieces together. Okay, so I've got that little top stitch sewn on there, and I went ahead and prepared my piece for my D-ring, and I've got it sewn on. And now the next thing we need to do is attach everything to the zipper. And like I said, the only zipper I had available at my local store was a 14-inch zipper, but obviously it's not gonna, we're not gonna use that much of the zipper because it's only a 10-inch bag. So our first step before we can start sewing the zipper on is to attach our zipper foot. And you may notice in my videos that I rarely ever switch the zipper foot around, even though you can use it on either side. I just prefer to keep it this way and sew from that left side of that foot, and it works out the way I do it. So anyway, we put our zipper foot on. My Viking Husqvarna, I'm setting it to medium speed. I'm putting the stitch length up to 3.0 stitch length, and I've got the outer part of my bag here, and this is the zipper pull. We want that to be facing down so that you've got right side of the bag to the right side of the zipper. I'm going to start with this end of the zipper foot, and I'm going to sew right over top of the zipper because it gives me a better guide to make sure that everything is even. And you notice I haven't cut the zipper yet. I'm not going to do that until I'm done with the whole process. And it's kind of hard to see on this, the black on black thread on the black zipper. But hopefully I can get this part straight. Now what I want to do, what I want to do is lay this lining piece right on top of that piece. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to use my first line as my guide line. And you have to, if you do it this way, if you install the zipper this way, you just want to be careful that your lining piece doesn't slip. Now we want to open these pieces up. And what we're going to do is line this part of the bag up with the other part, the outer part of the bag. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to line up these two outer pieces, make sure that they're in the right place, and then line them up with the zipper and start on this side again. I almost started on the wrong side and that wouldn't have been even. Now the same thing with the lining of the bag. It should be right sides touching, facing each other. And you want to make sure that they're lined up evenly. And then you want to flip it over and kind of with your sewing machine you want to trace that first line that you sewed. So now you can see that I have all of my pieces to my bag sewn onto the zipper. I'm going to lay it out like this with the wrong sides facing together, and I'm going to go ahead and trim this zipper. We no longer need to worry about. Now just make sure, which I almost would have done, make sure you open it up so you don't cut your zipper pull off, because then it's useless. And if it makes you feel more comfortable, you can stitch over that before you cut. I probably should have done that on this end, but that's okay. Okay, so we want to open our zipper up a little bit. We don't open it all the way because we've cut it and we'll lose the zipper pull. We want to line up the right sides, and what I'm going to do is, I will, for time's sake, I will not do this part on camera. I'm going to start on one side of this lining. I'm going to sew all the way around, and I'm going to stop, leaving about a 2.5 to 3 inch opening so that I can pull everything. I'll come back and show you that step, but I'm going to sew it all around first and then I'll be back. Okay, so you see I've got my bag sewn all the way around except for this little opening for turning. Now I just want to clip my corners. You don't want to clip that thread right there, but you want to clip close to the corners so that they turn nice and pretty for you. Okay. Then we just need to start our turning process, which I find the easiest, quickest way to do this is to get your hands all the way down in that bag and try to reach for one of these outer corners and then just push it through with your thumb. Once we've got all that turned, we can take a little wooden dowel and start poking out the corners of the outside of the bag. You don't need to do it with the inside, the lining part, because it's going to be inverse anyway. Well, first it would help to open the zipper up all the way. It happens sometimes, y'all. You want to make sure you push out the ends of the zipper too. And then what you would need to do is either with your machine or with a hand stitch, you'll need to close up this opening. And I'm going to go in afterwards and close this up with a hand stitch. Just mainly because I used black thread and I don't have any matching thread to top stitch it on the outside of that lining part of the bag. Once you do that part, and you can tuck all of this stuff in. And then you have a nice little pleated bag. And all you need to do is press it. There you go. There's our little pleated bag, and you can see the little pleats. They just give it a little more elegant look. Now all I need to do is make a key fob to match this, and I'm going to do that. If you want to see that video, that's on YouTube. You just search on YouTube, key fob, AFateSoTwisted, or how to make a key fob, AFateSoTwisted. AFateSoTwisted would be all one word, and you'll find that video on how to create a nice key fob to match this bag. So that's it. I hope y'all enjoyed this little tutorial. Peace, y'all. Bye-bye.